The stagecoach lurched to a stop outside the dusty ranch headquarters, and Amelia Porter stepped down onto Texas soil with her leather satchel clutched tight against her chest, knowing that somewhere in those ledgers waiting inside lay either honest numbers or carefully disguised theft. It was September 1878, and the heat still clung to the afternoon air in Alta, Texas, a small town nestled in the rolling hills where cattle outnumbered people 10-1. Amelia had traveled 3 days from San Antonio, hired by the Continental Cattle Company to audit the books of the Double J Ranch, one of their largest operations in the region. At 24 years old, she was one of the few women in Texas with formal training in accounting, having apprenticed under her father before his death 2 years prior. The work was steady if lonely, and she had learned to steel herself against the surprise and occasional hostility that greeted a woman doing what most considered man's work. The ranch house stood 2 stories tall, built of weathered wood that had turned silver gray under years of sun and wind. A wide porch wrapped around the front, and several hands lounged in the shade, their conversation dying as they noticed her approach. She lifted her chin and walked forward with measured steps, her dark blue traveling dress already covered in a fine layer of dust. Before she reached the steps, the front door opened and a man emerged, removing his hat as he stepped into the sunlight. Amelia found herself stopping mid-stride, caught off guard by the openness of his expression. He was tall, with sun-bronzed skin and sandy brown hair that touched his collar, and his eyes were the color of creek water in summer, clear and honest. "Miss Porter?" he asked, his voice carrying a warmth that seemed genuine. "I'm Austin Jameson. I own the Double J." She had expected someone older, harder, perhaps defensive about having his books scrutinized. Instead, Austin Jameson looked to be barely 30, and he was smiling at her as though her arrival was a welcome event rather than an intrusion. "Mr. Jameson," she replied, extending her gloved hand. His handshake was firm but brief, respectful. "I trust you received word of my assignment." "Yes, madam. Got the telegram from Continental last week. I have everything set up for you in my office. Can I help with your trunk? The driver will bring it. I was told there would be lodging available." "Yes, madam. We have a guest room upstairs. It is not fancy, but it is clean and private. My housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, keeps the place respectable. You will have your privacy and proper accommodations during your stay." Amelia relaxed slightly. She had audited 3 ranches before this one, and at 2 of them she had been forced to stay in town, riding out each day because the owners refused to house a single woman on their property. It complicated the work considerably. "I appreciate that, Mr. Jameson. I expect the audit will take approximately 2 weeks, depending on the condition of your records." Something flickered in his expression, almost amusement. "Well, Miss Porter, I reckon you will find my records in better condition than most. I keep detailed books, always have." It was an odd thing to say with such confidence, and Amelia found herself curious despite her professional detachment. Most ranchers she had audited kept haphazard records at best, scrawled notes and loose receipts stuffed in drawers. The Continental Cattle Company had started requiring regular audits after discovering that 2 of their contracted ranches had been skimming profits for years. Austin gestured toward the door. "Let me show you to the office. You must be tired from the journey." Inside, the ranch house was surprisingly well kept. The floors were swept clean, and the furniture, though simple, was well made and polished. Austin led her down a hallway to a spacious room lined with bookshelves. A large desk sat before the window, and on it were stacked several leather-bound ledgers, all uniform in size and appearance. "These are the primary account books," Austin said, running his hand along the stack. Cattle purchases, sales, breeding records, payroll, supply expenses, everything. I also keep separate logs for each herd, tracking their movements and health. Those are on the shelf there if you need them. Amelia set her satchel on a side table and approached the desk, opening the top ledger. The pages were filled with neat, precise handwriting, each entry dated and categorized. She flipped through several pages, her trained eye scanning the columns. The level of detail was exceptional. "You keep these yourself?" she asked, unable to hide her surprise. "Yes, madam. Every entry. I was raised to believe that a man should know his business down to the last cent. My father taught me that before he passed." She looked up at him, reassessing. "Most ranchers I have worked with consider bookkeeping a burden." Austin shrugged, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Most ranchers I know cannot tell you if they made money or lost it until the year is done. I prefer to know where I stand." Despite herself, Amelia felt a flicker of respect. "Well, Mr. Jameson, this will certainly make my work easier. I will need to verify these entries against receipts, bills of sale, and other documentation. I have files organized by month and category. They are in those drawers." He pointed to a cabinet along the wall. "Miss Porter, I want you to know that you have my full cooperation. If you find any discrepancies, I want to know about them. The Continental Company pays me fairly and I aim to do right by them." There was something disarming about his directness, and Amelia found herself believing him, which was dangerous. Her job required skepticism. Still, she nodded professionally. "Thank you, Mr. Jameson. I will begin tomorrow morning after I have settled in." "Austin," he said, "if we are going to be working together for 2 weeks, you might as well call me Austin, and I will call you Miss Porter unless you say otherwise." "Miss Porter is appropriate," she replied, maintaining the boundary even as she noticed the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. "All right then, Miss Porter. I will have someone bring your trunk up to your room. Supper is at 6. Nothing fancy, but Mrs. Chen is a fine cook." After he left, Amelia stood alone in the office, looking around at the orderly shelves and the neat stack of ledgers. She had learned to trust numbers more than words, facts more than promises. But something about Austin Jameson struck her as different from the other ranchers she had dealt with. Whether that was genuine or simply a more polished form of deception remained to be seen. That evening, she met Mrs. Chen, a Chinese woman in her 50s who spoke with a slight accent and moved through the kitchen with quiet efficiency. The older woman showed Amelia to a comfortable room upstairs, simply furnished with a bed, wardrobe, washstand, and a small writing desk near the window that overlooked the horse corrals. "You need anything, you tell me," Mrs. Chen said. "I keep house here 5 years now. Mr. Austin is good man, fair employer. You will see." It was an unsolicited character reference, and Amelia simply thanked her, unwilling to discuss her assignment with the household staff. Supper was served in a dining room off the main hall. Austin sat at the head of the table, and he had invited his foreman, a weathered man named Henry, to join them. The food was indeed excellent, roasted chicken with vegetables and fresh bread, but Amelia found the conversation more interesting than the meal. "How long have you worked the Double J?" she asked Henry, her natural curiosity overcoming her reserve. "Going on 12 years now," Henry replied. "Started as a hand, worked my way up. Austin here took over from his father 8 years back, and I cannot say he has made a wrong decision since." "Henry is loyal to a fault," Austin said, though his tone was affectionate. "But he is right that we have built something solid here. We run about 3,000 head and we have been growing steady. No shortcuts, no shady deals, just honest work." "The audit will verify that," Amelia said neutrally. "I expect it will," Austin replied, meeting her eyes. "I have got nothing to hide, Miss Porter. That is the whole point of keeping good books." The next morning, Amelia began her work in earnest. She started with the most recent entries, working backward through the months. She cross-referenced every cattle sale against bills of sale, checked payroll against time records, and verified supply purchases against receipts. The work was meticulous and time-consuming, but she found a rhythm to it, losing herself in the columns of numbers. Austin appeared periodically, answering questions when she had them, but otherwise leaving her to work undisturbed. She appreciated his respect for her process, though she was also aware of his presence in the house, his voice drifting down the hallway as he discussed ranch business with his men or made arrangements for cattle drives. On the third day, she looked up from a ledger to find him standing in the doorway with 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need a break," he said, entering when she nodded. He set 1 cup beside her and took a seat in the chair across from the desk, finding everything in order. "So far," she admitted, "your records are remarkably thorough, Mr. Jameson." "Austin," he corrected gently. "And thank you. My father used to say that an honest man keeps his affairs where others can see them. I took that to heart." Amelia sipped the coffee, which was strong and hot. "Most people do not practice what they preach." "No, I suppose they do not." He studied her for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "Can I ask you something, Miss Porter? How did you come to this line of work? It cannot be easy being a woman in a field dominated by men." She stiffened slightly, prepared for condescension or doubt, but his tone held only genuine curiosity. "My father was an accountant," she said finally. "He trained me from the time I was young. When he died, I needed to support myself, and this was the skill I had. Continental took a chance on me after I audited their San Antonio office and found several errors their regular accountant had missed." "Errors in their favor or yours?" Austin asked. "Theirs. I corrected them honestly, which I think surprised them more than my ability with numbers." Austin smiled. "Honesty is a rare enough quality these days, regardless of who is practicing it. I imagine they value you highly." "They pay me fairly, which is all I ask." "Is it lonely work?" The question was unexpected, and Amelia found herself caught off guard. "Sometimes," she admitted before she could think better of it, "but loneliness is better than dependence." Something shifted in Austin's expression, a shadow of understanding. "My mother used to say something similar. She passed when I was 15, but I remember she was always fiercely independent. She ran this ranch alongside my father, and sometimes I think she was the better rancher of the two." "That must have been difficult, losing her so young." "It was. But it taught me to value strength in people, regardless of where it comes from." He stood, collecting his empty cup. "I will let you get back to work, but Miss Porter, I want you to know I respect what you do and how you do it." After he left, Amelia sat for a long moment, staring at the ledger without seeing the numbers. There was something genuine about Austin Jameson that unsettled her carefully maintained professional distance. She had learned to expect suspicion, resentment, or patronizing tolerance from the men whose books she audited. Respect was new, and she was not entirely sure what to do with it. The days fell into a pattern. She worked through the morning and into the afternoon, breaking only for meals. Austin was often out on the range, working alongside his men, but when he was at the house, he made a point of checking in with her. Their conversations grew longer, ranging beyond the ledgers to talk of the ranch, the region, and eventually more personal matters. She learned that he had inherited the Double J when his father died of pneumonia 8 years earlier, that he had spent those years building the operation while honoring his father's principles of fair dealing and honest work. He spoke of the challenges of the cattle business, the droughts and diseases and market fluctuations that could ruin a man, but also of the satisfaction of seeing a herd thrive and knowing his name meant something in the territory. In turn, she found herself sharing more than she intended. She told him about her father's slow decline from consumption, about the shock of finding herself alone in the world with no family and limited prospects. She described the difficulty of convincing men to take her seriously, the constant need to prove herself beyond any doubt. "It sounds exhausting," Austin said one evening as they sat on the porch after supper, watching the sun set over the hills. "It is," Amelia admitted, "but the alternative is worse. I saw too many women left destitute when their husbands or fathers died, with no skills and no way to support themselves. I swore that would not be me." "You are remarkable, Miss Porter," Austin said quietly. "I hope you know that." She looked at him, this honest cowboy who kept perfect books and spoke to her as an equal, and felt something shift in her chest. It was dangerous, she knew. She would be leaving in a week or so, returning to San Antonio and the next assignment. Allowing herself to feel anything beyond professional courtesy was foolish. But when he smiled at her in the fading light, she smiled back. By the end of the first week, Amelia had worked her way through most of the ledgers, and her initial assessment had not changed. Austin's books were impeccable. Every transaction was documented, every cent accounted for. She had found a few minor arithmetic errors, small mistakes that actually cost Austin money rather than benefiting him, and when she pointed them out, he thanked her and corrected them immediately. "You are losing money by being too honest," she told him as they reviewed the corrections in his office. Austin laughed. "I would rather lose a few dollars than my integrity. Money comes and goes, Miss Porter, but a man's word should be solid. Not everyone thinks that way." "No, but everyone should." He leaned back in his chair, regarding her with those clear eyes. "You have been here a week now. What do you think of the Double J?" "I think it is one of the best-run operations I have seen," she said honestly. "Your records are excellent, your men seem content, and the cattle I have observed appear healthy and well-managed. High praise from someone who has seen as many ranches as you have." He paused, then added, "I hope you have been comfortable here. I know it is not easy, being away from home and working among strangers." "I have been very comfortable, thank you. You and Mrs. Chen have been most hospitable." "Good." He seemed to be choosing his words carefully. "Miss Porter, Amelia, if I may, I want to say something, and I hope you will not take it as inappropriate." Her heart began to beat faster. "Go on." "I have enjoyed your company these past days more than I have enjoyed anyone's company in a long while. You are intelligent and capable, and you do not suffer fools, which I appreciate. I know you will be leaving soon, and I know you have your work and your life in San Antonio. But I would like to write to you if you would permit it. I would like to stay in touch." Amelia sat very still, aware that her answer mattered more than simple courtesy. "Mr. Jameson, Austin, I have enjoyed our conversations as well, but I need to be honest with you. I do not have room in my life for entanglements. My work requires me to travel, to remain objective and independent. I cannot afford to let personal feelings cloud my judgment." "I am not asking you to compromise your work," Austin said gently. "I am only asking for the chance to know you better, as a friend if nothing else. Letters can travel between Alta and San Antonio. We could share our thoughts, our experiences. No expectations, no demands. Just honest correspondence between two people who respect each other." It was a reasonable request, perhaps too reasonable to refuse without seeming cold. And the truth was, Amelia did not want to refuse. The thought of never seeing Austin again, of reducing him to just another entry in her work log, felt wrong in a way she could not quite articulate. "All right," she said finally. "We can write. But Austin, I need you to understand that I cannot make any promises beyond that." "I understand," he said, and his smile was like sunrise. "That is enough for now." The second week of the audit proceeded much like the first, but the atmosphere had changed subtly. There was a charge in the air when they were in the same room, an awareness that had not been there before. Amelia caught herself watching Austin through the office window as he worked with the horses, noting the easy strength of his movements and the way he treated the animals with patient kindness. She found herself lingering over supper, drawing out their conversations long past, when she would normally have excused herself to retire. On Wednesday of that second week, one of the ranch hands rode in with news of trouble. A section of fence on the northern pasture had been cut, and about 50 head of cattle were missing. Amelia was working in the office when she heard the commotion. She stepped out onto the porch to see Austin giving rapid orders to his men, his face set with determination. "Henry, take 6 men and ride the northern fence line. Look for tracks, signs of where they drove them off. I will take another group and head toward the creek crossings. They cannot have gotten far with that many head." "You think it is rustlers?" Henry asked grimly. "I think someone cut my fence and took my cattle, which makes them thieves regardless of what we call them." Austin spotted Amelia on the porch and walked over. "I apologize, Miss Porter, but I need to handle this. I may be gone overnight." "Of course," she said. "Do what you need to do. The books will wait." He looked at her for a long moment, something unspoken passing between them. "Stay inside after dark. Mrs. Chen has a rifle and she knows how to use it. I do not think there will be trouble here, but I would rather know you are safe." The concern in his voice warmed her even as the situation alarmed her. "I will be careful. You do the same." He nodded and mounted his horse, leading his men out at a gallop. Amelia watched until they disappeared over the rise, then returned to the office, though she found it hard to concentrate on the ledgers. Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway an hour later with tea. "You worry for him," the older woman said, not quite a question. "I worry that there may be violence," Amelia replied carefully. "Mr. Austin, he is a smart man, not reckless. He will come back." Mrs. Chen set down the tea and gave Amelia a knowing look. "You have feelings for him, is good. He needs good woman. Ranch needs family. Mrs. Chen, I am only here to audit the books." "You keep telling yourself that, Miss Porter, but heart knows different." With that cryptic statement, the housekeeper left, and Amelia was alone with her thoughts and the numbers that suddenly seemed far less important than they had that morning. Austin returned the following afternoon, dusty and tired but unharmed. They had tracked the rustlers to a canyon 20 miles north and recovered most of the cattle. The thieves had scattered when confronted by Austin's larger group, leaving the herd behind in their flight. 2 steers had been butchered, a loss but not a significant one. "Did anyone get hurt?" Amelia asked when Austin found her in the office, unable to hide her relief at seeing him safe. "A few scrapes and bruises, nothing serious. We did not catch the rustlers, but we sent a message that the Double J is not easy pickings." He pulled off his hat and ran a hand through his hair, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. "I am sorry for the interruption to your work. The work is nearly finished anyway," she said. "I should have my report ready by tomorrow. Austin, I am glad you are all right." He met her eyes, and she saw the same awareness there that she felt. "Were you worried about me, Amelia?" It was the first time he had used her given name without the miss, and she did not correct him. "Yes," she said simply. "I was worried." He crossed the room in 3 strides and took her hand, his grip warm and strong. "I am fine. But it means something to me that you cared." She should pull away, maintain the professional distance, but she did not. Instead, she let herself feel the connection between them, solid and real despite all her careful defenses. "I care more than I should," she admitted. "Or maybe exactly as much as you should," he said softly. His thumb traced a gentle circle on the back of her hand. "Amelia, I know you are leaving soon. I know your work is important to you and I would never ask you to give that up. But I need you to know that what I feel for you is not casual. These 2 weeks have meant something to me. You mean something to me." Her breath caught. "Austin, I do not know how this could work. My life is in San Antonio and my work takes me all over the territory. I know. I am not asking you to change your life. I am asking you to let me be part of it, whatever that looks like. We can write, and when you have assignments near Alta, you can stay here. And maybe, eventually, we can figure out something more permanent, but only if that is what you want." What did she want? For 2 years, since her father's death, Amelia had focused entirely on survival and independence. She had built walls around her heart, convinced that caring for someone meant risking the autonomy she had fought so hard to achieve. But looking at Austin now, seeing the honesty in his eyes and feeling the strength of his hand in hers, she realized that maybe independence did not have to mean isolation. "I want that," she whispered. "I am terrified of it, but I want it." Austin smiled, the expression transforming his whole face. "Then we will figure it out together. No promises we cannot keep, no expectations we cannot meet, just honesty and whatever time we can have." He raised her hand to his lips and pressed a kiss to her knuckles, the gesture both old-fashioned and achingly sweet. Amelia felt something inside her unlock, a door she had kept firmly closed beginning to open. That night, she barely slept, her mind racing with possibilities and fears in equal measure. She had never allowed herself to imagine a future that included love, had never thought she could balance the independence she needed with the vulnerability that caring for someone required. But Austin was not asking her to choose. He was offering her both if she was brave enough to reach for it. The next day, she completed her audit report. As expected, her findings showed that Austin Jameson operated the Double J Ranch with complete honesty and integrity. There were no discrepancies, no hidden transactions, no evidence of any mishandling of Continental Cattle Company funds. She wrote a glowing assessment, knowing it would strengthen his standing with the company and likely lead to increased investment in his operation. When she showed him the report that evening, Austin read it carefully, then set it aside. "Thank you," he said. "This means a lot, though I am more grateful for the time it gave me with you than for the clean bill of health." "The report is honest," Amelia said. "You have built something impressive here, Austin. You should be proud." "I am proud of the ranch," he agreed. "But right now I am more interested in talking about us. When do you leave?" "The day after tomorrow. I have a stage to catch back to San Antonio." "And then what? Another assignment?" "Probably. Continental usually has work lined up for me." Austin was quiet for a moment, then said, "I want to court you properly, Amelia. I know the circumstances are unusual, but I want to do this right. I will write to you every week, and I want you to tell me about your work, your life, everything. When you have time between assignments, I hope you will come back here. And when I can get away from the ranch, I will come to San Antonio to see you. We will take this slow, build something real." "I have never been courted before," she admitted. "I am not sure I know how it works." "Neither do I, not really. But I think we figure it out together, same as everything else." He reached for her hand again, that connection that was becoming familiar. "I am not going to rush you or pressure you. But I am also not going to pretend I do not feel what I feel. I am falling in love with you, Amelia Porter, and I think you might be falling for me too." She could deny it, protect herself behind professional walls and practical concerns. But Austin's honesty deserved the same in return. "I am," she said, "falling for you. It scares me half to death, but I am." "Good," he said, and pulled her gently into his arms. The embrace was warm and solid, and Amelia let herself lean into it, let herself feel safe in a way she had not felt in years. When he tilted her chin up and kissed her, soft and sweet, she kissed him back, tasting possibility and hope. The next day passed too quickly. Amelia packed her belongings and made arrangements for the stage, all while trying to memorize every detail of the ranch, of Austin's face, of the way the light fell through the office window. That evening, Austin took her for a ride around the property, showing her the places he loved most, the creek where he used to fish as a boy, the hill where his mother was buried, the far pasture where the new calves were growing strong. "I want you to know this place," he said as they sat on horseback looking out over the land. "I want you to understand what it means to me. This ranch is my legacy, my responsibility, but it is also my home. And I hope someday it can be yours too. I do not know if I could ever leave San Antonio permanently," Amelia said carefully. "My work is there. I am not asking you to give up your work. I am asking you to think about a future where we build something together. Maybe you keep your office in San Antonio and travel for assignments, but you have a home here to come back to. Maybe we find a way to make it work where you are not giving up who you are. I do not have all the answers, Amelia. I just know I want to try." She turned in her saddle to look at him fully. "You would really be willing to let me keep working? Most men would expect their wife to stay home, manage the household. You are not most women, and I hope I am not most men. I fell in love with your intelligence and your independence." "Why would I want to take that away?" he smiled. "Besides, Mrs. Chen manages the household better than either of us could, and I think having a wife who understands numbers and business would be an asset to the ranch, not a liability." Wife. The word hung in the air between them, enormous and terrifying and thrilling all at once. "We have only known each other 2 weeks," Amelia said, but her voice lacked conviction. "I know. That is why I am not proposing right now. I am just telling you what I am thinking, what I am hoping for. We have time to figure this out, to make sure it is right for both of us. But Amelia, I have never been more certain of anything than I am of my feelings for you." She reached across the space between their horses and took his hand. "Write to me," she said. "Tell me about the ranch, about your days. Let me get to know you through your words as well as your actions. And I will do the same. We will see where this goes." "That is all I ask," Austin said, and the smile he gave her was worth every risk she was taking. The next morning, Austin drove her into Alta himself, rather than letting one of the hands do it. They sat close together on the wagon seat, his arm occasionally brushing hers as they navigated the rutted road. In town, they had 30 minutes before the stage arrived, and they spent it walking along the main street, talking about everything and nothing. When the stage pulled up, Austin carried her trunk to the driver, then turned to her, his expression serious. "I am going to miss you," he said. "These 2 weeks have been the best I have had in longer than I can remember." "I will miss you too," Amelia replied, surprised by how much she meant it. "Thank you for your hospitality, for your honesty, for everything. Thank you for seeing me, really seeing me. Not just the books and the ranch, but who I am." He glanced around at the few townspeople watching with curiosity, then seemed to make a decision. He took both her hands in his, right there on the street where anyone could see. "I will write within the week. And Amelia, please be safe in your travels." "I will. You take care of the ranch and yourself." He helped her into the stage, his hands lingering at her waist for a moment longer than necessary. Through the window, Their eyes met and held until the driver called out and the horses lurched into motion. Amelia watched through the back window as Austin stood in the street, hat in hand, growing smaller as the distance between them increased. She settled back in her seat, aware of the other passengers watching her with interest. A well-dressed woman across from her leaned forward slightly. "Forgive me for saying so, but that was quite a farewell. Is he your intended?" Amelia considered the question. "Not yet," she said finally. "But perhaps someday." The journey back to San Antonio gave her time to think, to question, to wonder if she was being foolish. By the time she reached her small apartment above a general store on Commerce Street, she had cycled through doubt and hope a dozen times. But when she unpacked her trunk and found a folded piece of paper tucked among her clothes, doubt fled. The note was in Austin's neat handwriting. "Already counting the days until I see you again. Yours, Austin." She pressed the paper to her chest and smiled. True to his word, Austin's first letter arrived 5 days later. It was 3 pages long, filled with details about the ranch, the cattle, a new foal born to his favorite mare. But it was the personal touches that made Amelia's heart race. The way he described missing their evening conversations, how the office seemed empty without her working at the desk, how he found himself looking toward the road hoping to see her return, even though he knew it was too soon. She wrote back that same evening, telling him about her return to San Antonio. A new assignment she had been offered to audit a bank's accounts, the way the city felt different now that she had somewhere else to long for. She told him about a sunset she had watched from her window that reminded her of the evening they had ridden together, about a passage in a book that made her think of something he had said. The letters became a lifeline. Every week, sometimes twice a week, they wrote to each other, building intimacy through words on paper. Amelia learned about Austin's childhood, his dreams for the ranch, his fears about drought and disease and market crashes. She shared her own history, her complicated relationship with her late father who had loved her but never quite knew what to do with a daughter, her struggles to be taken seriously in her profession, her fierce pride in her independence. 6 weeks after leaving the Double J, Amelia received an assignment that took her to a ranch 30 miles south of Alta. She wrote to Austin immediately, and his response came by telegram. "Come to the Double J when you finish. Stay as long as you can, please." The audit took 4 days, and Amelia completed it with unusual efficiency, driven by anticipation. When she hired a wagon to take her to Alta, her heart was racing with nerves and excitement. Austin was waiting when she arrived, and the sight of him standing on the porch made something in her chest expand painfully. He came down the steps as the wagon stopped, and when she stepped down, he caught her in his arms, lifting her briefly off her feet. "You came back," he said into her hair. "I came back," she agreed, breathing in the scent of him. Leather and soap and sun-warmed cotton. That visit lasted a week, and it was both wonderful and frustrating. They spent hours talking, riding, sitting together in the evening. Austin showed her the ranch's books, asking her advice on some financial decisions. She felt herself falling deeper, her careful defenses crumbling with each day. But they were also acutely aware of propriety, of Mrs. Chen's watchful presence, of the need to maintain respectability. On her last evening, they sat on the porch watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. "This is harder than I thought it would be," Austin admitted. "Having you here and knowing you are leaving again." "I know," Amelia said softly, "but Austin, I need more time. I need to be sure I can make this work, that I am not giving up too much or expecting too much." "I understand. But Amelia, I want you to know that I am sure. I love you. I want to marry you, build a life with you." Whenever you are ready, however we need to arrange things, I want that future with you." She turned to him, searching his face in the dim light. "You would really let me keep working, even after we married? Why not? You are brilliant at what you do. The ranch benefits from your skills, and you have built a reputation that means something. I would be a fool to ask you to give that up." He took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "I am not asking you to be someone you are not. I am asking you to share your life with me, whatever that looks like." Something settled in Amelia's heart, a certainty she had not felt before. "Ask me again at Christmas," she said. "Come to San Antonio for Christmas. If you still feel the same way, ask me then." Austin's smile was brilliant even in the darkness. "That is a promise." The months between September and December were filled with letters and longing. Amelia threw herself into her work, completing audits for Continental and taking on private clients as well. Her reputation grew, and with it, her income. She began to see how her life could expand rather than contract if she married Austin, how she could maintain her independence while building something shared. Austin wrote about preparations for winter, about his plans to expand the herd in the spring, about improvements he wanted to make to the ranch house. "I am thinking about adding a proper office for you," he wrote in November. "A place where you can work when you are here, with good light and plenty of shelf space for books and files. I want you to have a space that is yours, something that makes this feel like home." The thoughtfulness of it, the way he was making room for her in his life without asking her to diminish herself, made Amelia more certain with each passing day. Austin arrived in San Antonio on December 23rd, and Amelia met him at the stage depot, her heart in her throat. 4 months since she had seen him last, and he looked even better than she remembered, taller somehow, his eyes bright with purpose. They had Christmas dinner at a hotel restaurant, too aware of propriety to spend time alone in her apartment without a chaperone. Over roast turkey and sweet potatoes, they talked and laughed, falling back into the easy rhythm they had built through their letters. After dinner, Austin suggested a walk, and they strolled through the quiet streets, most of San Antonio's residents home with their families. They found themselves in front of the Alamo, the old mission standing silent and solemn in the winter night. "I was thinking about history," Austin said as they stood looking at the weathered stone walls, "about legacy and what we leave behind. My father left me a ranch, a piece of land, something tangible, but what I want to leave is more than that. I want to leave behind evidence of a life well lived, of love honored and promises kept." He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "Amelia Porter, I love you. I love your intelligence and your strength, your honesty and your courage. I love the way you see the world and the way you have taught me to see it too. I want to spend my life with you, supporting your dreams while building ours together. Will you marry me?" Amelia looked at this honest cowboy who had opened both his books and his heart to her, who had never once asked her to be anything other than herself. She thought about the life they could build, the balance they could strike between her work and their shared future. She thought about love and partnership, about finding someone who made her stronger rather than diminished. "Yes," she said, her voice steady and sure. "Yes, Austin, I will marry you." He pulled a ring from his pocket, a simple gold band with a small diamond that caught the starlight. "It was my mother's," he said as he slipped it onto her finger. "My father gave it to her when they married, and she told him it represented their partnership, small maybe but solid and true. I want that for us." Amelia looked at the ring, then up at Austin, and felt tears prick her eyes. "It is perfect," she whispered. He kissed her then, there in the shadow of the Alamo, a kiss that tasted of promise and possibility. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "When?" Austin asked. "When will you marry me, Spring?" Amelia decided. April, maybe. That gives me time to finish my current contracts and make arrangements. I will keep my office here in San Antonio, take assignments when they come. But the ranch will be home, our home. Our home, Austin repeated as if testing the words. I like the sound of that. They made their plans over the next few days. Austin would return to Alta to prepare for the wedding and to make those improvements to the house. Amelia would work through the winter, saving money and building her client base so she could be more selective about assignments after the marriage. They would marry in Alta, a small ceremony with the ranch hands and townspeople, then take a brief wedding trip to Austin before settling into their new life together. When Austin left on December 27th, the parting was bittersweet but tempered by certainty. They would be together soon, permanently. The winter passed in a flurry of activity. Amelia worked harder than ever, determined to prove she could maintain her career even as she prepared for marriage. She took on challenging assignments, including a complex audit of a shipping company that had multiple irregularities. Her thorough work saved the company thousands of dollars and further enhanced her reputation. Austin's letters described progress on the house, the new office he was building for her, his plans for the spring cattle drive. I find myself talking to you in my head throughout the day, he wrote in February, imagining what you would say about this decision or that problem. You are already part of my life even though you are not here yet. I cannot wait until I do not have to imagine anymore. In March, Amelia began packing up her apartment, sorting through her belongings and deciding what to bring to the ranch. It was strange, this upheaval after years of settled routine, but it felt right. She was not giving up her independence. She was choosing to share it. The week before the wedding, she traveled to Alta with 2 large trunks and a heart full of hope. Austin met her at the stage, and this time when he helped her down, he kissed her right there in the street, not caring who saw. "Welcome home," he said against her lips. The ranch looked different in spring, green and alive with new growth. The house had been painted, and the new office Austin had built for her was everything he had described, light-filled and spacious with built-in shelves, and a large desk positioned to look out over the southern pasture. "It is beautiful," Amelia breathed, running her hand along the smooth wood. "Austin, this is perfect. I want you to be happy here," he said from the doorway. "I want you to have everything you need to do your work. Your success is our success, Amelia. I believe that." They were married on April 15th, 1879, in the parlor of the ranch house with Henry serving as best man and Mrs. Chen standing up with Amelia. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt, their vows spoken with full awareness of what they were promising each other. "I promise to honor your independence while cherishing our partnership," Austin said, his hands warm around hers. "I promise to support your work and your dreams, to be honest always, and to love you for exactly who you are. I promise to build a life with you while maintaining the person I have worked to become," Amelia replied, her voice clear and strong. "I promise to bring my whole self to this marriage, to trust you with my heart, and to love you with everything I am." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Austin kissed her with such tenderness that Amelia felt her last defenses fall away. This was right. This was home. The wedding celebration was a simple affair, a dinner with the ranch hands and some townspeople. They danced to fiddle music in the barn, and Amelia found herself laughing more than she had in years, watching Austin joke with his men and seeing the respect and affection they had for him. That night, in the bedroom they would now share, Austin was gentle and patient, their intimacy building on months of emotional connection. Amelia discovered that giving herself to someone she loved did not diminish her. Instead, It made her feel more fully herself than she had ever been. The next morning, they left for their wedding trip to the city of Austin, spending 5 days exploring the capital and enjoying the novelty of being alone together without the demands of ranch or work. They talked about their plans, their hopes for the future, the children they both wanted someday. "I want them to see a partnership," Amelia said as they walked along the Colorado River. "I want them to grow up knowing that marriage can be about mutual respect and shared strength, not just one person serving the other." "They will see that," Austin promised. "We will show them." Returning to the ranch felt like truly coming home. Amelia settled into a routine that balanced her work with ranch life. Continental continued to send her assignments, and she took the ones that interested her, traveling when necessary but always returning to Alta. She also began consulting for Austin, helping him analyze his finances and plan for expansion. Together, they made the Double J more profitable than it had ever been. Their first year of marriage was not without challenges. There were times when Amelia's work took her away for weeks, and the separation was hard on both of them. There were moments when Austin's focus on the ranch made her feel secondary, and she had to speak up about her needs. But they had built their relationship on honesty, and they navigated conflicts with the same straightforwardness they brought to everything else. "I miss you when you are gone," Austin admitted one evening after she returned from a 3-week assignment in Houston. "But I am also proud of you. You are doing important work, making a name for yourself. I do not want to hold you back." "You are not holding me back," Amelia assured him. "You make it possible for me to do this work because I have a home to come back to, a partner who understands. That is not a limitation, Austin. It is freedom." In the spring of 1880, Amelia discovered she was pregnant. The news filled her with both joy and trepidation. She loved her work, and she feared that motherhood would force her to give it up. Austin held her as she cried out her fears and then tilted her face up to his. "We will figure it out," he said firmly. "Maybe you take fewer assignments, work from home more. Maybe we hire help with the baby so you can keep your office hours. We will find a way, Amelia. You do not have to choose between being a mother and being yourself." His certainty helped ground her, and together they made plans. Mrs. Chen was delighted at the prospect of a baby in the house and immediately began preparing. Austin made arrangements to hire a young woman from town to help with childcare when Amelia needed to work. Their son was born in January 1881, a healthy boy with his father's clear eyes and his mother's determined chin. They named him Samuel James Jameson, after both their fathers. Motherhood transformed Amelia in ways she had not expected. She loved Samuel with a fierceness that sometimes scared her, but she also discovered that being a mother did not erase who she was. She continued to work, taking assignments that could be done from the ranch or traveling only when necessary and only for short periods. Austin proved to be a devoted father, taking the baby out to the barn with him, carrying Samuel in a sling as he checked on the cattle. "You are a natural," Amelia told him one afternoon, watching him settle their son for a nap with practiced ease. "He is part of both of us," Austin replied. "That makes him easy to love." As Samuel grew, he became a fixture around the ranch, toddling after his father and charming the hands with his gap-toothed grin. Amelia worked in her office with him playing at her feet, teaching him numbers and letters as he got older. She showed him ledgers and explained what she did, wanting him to understand that work was valuable regardless of who did it. In 1883, their daughter was born, a fierce little girl they named Eleanor May. If Samuel was easygoing like his father, Eleanor was all fire and determination from the start. She demanded attention, refused to be ignored, and had opinions about everything even before she could speak in full sentences. She is just like you, Austin said with amusement, as 2-year-old Alina insisted on helping him mend a fence despite being far too small for the task. I know, Amelia replied, watching her daughter with pride. God help us all. The ranch continued to prosper. Austin's careful management and Amelia's financial expertise made the Double J one of the most successful operations in the region. They expanded their herd, bought additional land, and built a reputation for fair dealing and quality cattle. Continental relied heavily on Amelia's auditing work, often asking her to train new accountants in her methods. She had achieved something rare, a career that commanded respect and compensation while also building a family and a home. There were still men who questioned her, who could not reconcile a woman accountant with their view of how the world should work. But Amelia had stopped caring what they thought. She knew her worth, and more importantly, so did the people who mattered to her. By 1885, as she sat in her office working through a complex set of books for a new client, Amelia sometimes paused to reflect on the journey that had brought her here. 7 years since she had arrived in Alta to audit a ranch, nervous and guarded and convinced that independence meant isolation. She had been so wrong. True independence, she had learned, was not about being alone. It was about choosing who you wanted beside you, building partnerships based on respect rather than dominance, creating a life that honored all of who you were rather than forcing you to choose between different parts of yourself. Austin appeared in the doorway of her office, now 6-year-old Samuel trailing behind him and 4-year-old Alina riding on his shoulders. "We are going to check the new calves," Austin announced. "Want to come with us?" Amelia looked at the ledger in front of her, then at her family. The work would wait. "Yes," she said, standing and stretching. "Let me get my hat." They walked together to the near pasture, Samuel running ahead while Alina chattered constantly from her perch. Austin's hand found Amelia's, their fingers lacing together with the easy familiarity of long practice. "Happy?" he asked quietly. She looked around at the land they had built together, at the children who carried the best of both of them, at the man who had opened his books and his heart and given her the freedom to do the same. "Yes," she said simply. "I am happy." That evening, after the children were in bed, Amelia and Austin sat on the porch as they often did, watching the stars emerge. It had become their time, these quiet moments at the end of the day when they could talk without interruption, sharing thoughts and dreams and plans. "I got a letter from Continental today," Amelia said. "They want me to travel to Kansas City for a major audit, 3 weeks, possibly more." Austin was quiet for a moment and she could feel him thinking. "When?" "Next month. I was thinking I could take Samuel with me." Alina is still too young for that much travel, but Samuel would enjoy seeing a big city. And you would only have 1 child to manage here. "Or you could take Alina and leave me with Samuel," Austin suggested. "She is probably old enough now, and it might do her good to see what you do, see you in your element. Show her what women can accomplish." Amelia turned to him, touched by his understanding. "You would not mind managing the ranch and Samuel alone for 3 weeks?" "I have Henry and the hands and Mrs. Chen. We will be fine. And Amelia, I want Alina to see you work. I want both our children to understand that their mother is respected for her mind and her skills, that she did not give that up when she married me." She leaned her head against his shoulder, overwhelmed by love for this man who had never once made her feel like she had to choose. "How did I get so lucky to find you?" "I think we found each other," Austin replied, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "And I am the lucky one. Every day, I am grateful you took a chance on an honest cowboy with organized books." They sat in comfortable silence, Amelia thinking about the trip to Kansas City, about showing Alina the work she did, about the life they had built together. It was not always easy, balancing her career and their family and the ranch. There were days when she felt pulled in too many directions, when she questioned if she was doing any of it well enough. But then there were moments like this, sitting beside the man she loved on the porch of their home, and she knew that she had made the right choices. The years continued to unfold with a rhythm that felt both unpredictable and steady. Samuel grew into a thoughtful boy who loved both cattle ranching and mathematics, often working beside his father during the day, and then helping his mother with calculations in the evening. Alina became exactly what Amelia had suspected she would, fiercely independent and determined to do everything herself. When she was 7, she announced that she wanted to learn to keep books like her mother, and Amelia began teaching her the fundamentals of accounting. "She has a natural aptitude for it," Amelia told Austin one night. "Better than Samuel, actually. She sees patterns almost instantly." "Takes after her mother," Austin said proudly. "Though Samuel has your head for strategy. Different skills, both valuable." In 1888, their third child arrived unexpectedly, a pregnancy Amelia had not planned for at 34. Another boy, healthy and calm, whom they named Thomas Austin. His arrival disrupted their carefully balanced routine, but it also brought new joy. Samuel and Alina were old enough to help, and they both doted on their baby brother. Amelia reduced her traveling assignments after Thomas was born, focusing more on work she could do from the ranch. She had built enough of a reputation that clients came to her, sending their books for her review rather than requiring her presence on site. It was a shift that suited this phase of her life, allowing her to maintain her career while being present for her youngest child. Austin, now 42, had become something of an elder statesman among the ranchers in the region. Other cattlemen came to him for advice, and he often brought Amelia into those conversations, introducing her expertise in finance and business planning. She became known not just as Austin Jameson's wife, but as a skilled consultant in her own right, someone whose counsel was worth seeking. "You have built something remarkable," Austin told her one evening in 1890, as they reviewed the ranch's financial statements together. "Look at these numbers, Amelia. We are more than solvent, we are thriving. The ranch is worth 3 times what it was when you first came here." "We built it together," Amelia corrected. "Your management, my planning, partnership, remember?" "I remember," he said softly. "I remember everything. The day you stepped off that stagecoach with your leather satchel, looking like you expected a fight. The way you worked through my ledgers so carefully. The first time you smiled at me like you meant it. The day you said yes. I remember all of it." She reached across the desk and took his hand. 12 years of marriage, and her heart still quickened when he looked at her like that, with complete openness and love. "I remember too," she said. "I remember being so scared. Scared to trust you, scared to let myself feel anything, scared that loving you meant losing myself. And then discovering that loving you actually helped me find more of myself than I knew existed." Their children grew and flourished. Samuel, at 11, announced he wanted to study agriculture at the new college that had opened in College Station. Alina, at 9, declared she was going to be an accountant like her mother and maybe a rancher too, because why should she have to choose? Thomas, at 3, was still too young for such declarations, but he showed an early fascination with horses that suggested he would be a horseman like his father. Life on the ranch settled into patterns shaped by seasons and family needs. Springs were for calving and branding, summers for cattle drives and hay cutting, autumns for sales and preparations for winter. Woven through it all were school lessons and Sunday dinners, Amelia's work deadlines and Austin's management decisions. laughter and occasional arguments, and the deep satisfaction of building a life together. In 1892, Continental Cattle Company offered Amelia a permanent position as their chief auditor, based in San Antonio, but with the flexibility to work remotely when possible. It was a prestigious offer, recognition of her 14 years of excellent work. But it would require more travel, more time away from the ranch and her family. She discussed it with Austin, the two of them walking the fence line on a cool October evening while the children did their homework under Mrs. Chen's supervision. "What do you want to do?" Austin asked after she had explained the details. "I am not sure," Amelia admitted. "The recognition means something. The money would be useful. But Thomas is still so young, and I do not want to miss these years with him the way I was able to be there for Samuel and Alina." "What if you negotiated different terms?" Austin suggested. "You have leverage now, Amelia. They need you more than you need them. What if you told them you would take the position but with clear limits on travel? Maybe you go to San Antonio once a month for a few days, handle the major audits remotely, or send associates to do the field work while you review their findings." She stopped walking, turning to face him. "You really think I have that kind of bargaining power? I know you do. You are the best they have ever had. Everyone knows it. Set your terms, and I bet they will agree." Amelia followed Austin's advice, and to her pleased surprise, Continental accepted her counteroffer. She became their chief auditor with a reduced travel schedule and the authority to train and supervise other auditors. It was the best of both worlds, prestigious work and meaningful income without sacrificing her family life. The arrangement worked well for several years. Amelia made her monthly trips to San Antonio, often taking one of the children with her. Samuel went sometimes, fascinated by the city and the business world. Alina went more often, watching her mother work and asking endless questions about accounting and business. Even young Thomas got his turns, wide-eyed at the tall buildings and crowds. Austin managed the ranch expertly, but he also made sure to involve the children in the work. Samuel learned to evaluate cattle and plan breeding programs. Alina kept meticulous records and could spot financial irregularities before they became problems. Thomas, as he grew, developed an uncanny ability with horses, gentling even the most difficult animals with patience and kindness. "We are raising good people," Amelia said to Austin one night in 1895, watching through the window as 15-year-old Samuel helped 11-year-old Alina with a difficult math problem while 7-year-old Thomas practiced his letters nearby. "We are," Austin agreed, his arm around her waist. "They are smart and kind and hardworking. They have seen what a real partnership looks like. That will serve them well." In 1896, Samuel left for college in College Station, the first of their children to leave the ranch. Amelia wept as they saw him off on the stage, even though she was proud of his ambition and his acceptance to the agricultural program. "He will be back," Austin assured her. "This is his home. He will study and learn and then come back to apply it all here." Austin was right. Samuel returned every few months, full of new ideas about irrigation and crop rotation and hybrid cattle breeds. He and his father would spend hours discussing ranch management, while Amelia listened and occasionally pointed out the financial implications of various proposals. Alina, meanwhile, had become Amelia's apprentice in earnest. At 13, she was already handling basic bookkeeping for the ranch and had started helping her mother with simpler audits. She had her mother's eye for detail and her father's strategic thinking. "She is going to be better than me," Amelia told Austin with a mixture of pride and awe. "She learned from the best," Austin replied. "But she is also her own person. She will find her own way." Thomas, the surprise child who had come along when they thought their family was complete, was growing into a quiet, observant boy who spoke little but noticed everything. He had Austin's steady temperament and Amelia's analytical mind, combined in a way that was uniquely his own. In 1898, as the new century approached, Amelia looked back on 20 years of marriage and marveled at how different her life was from anything she could have imagined. She had not given up her career or her independence. Instead, she had expanded her life to include partnership, family, and a home that grounded her even as her work gave her wings. The ranch had grown to over 5,000 acres, running more than 4,000 head of cattle. The Double J was one of the most respected operations in Texas, known for quality livestock and honest dealing. Much of that success was due to the partnership between Austin and Amelia, his understanding of the land and livestock, combined with her financial acumen and strategic planning. Their children were thriving. Samuel, now 20, was in his final year of college and already making plans to bring modern agricultural techniques to the ranch. Eleanor, 16, had announced her intention to study accounting formally and then join her mother's firm. For Amelia had expanded beyond just continental work to build her own consulting business. Thomas, 10, was still finding his path, but his gift with horses suggested he might become a renowned horse trainer. "We did good," Austin said one evening as they celebrated their 20th anniversary with a quiet dinner, just the two of them while Mrs. Chen watched Thomas and Eleanor worked in her office. "We did," Amelia agreed, raising her glass to his. "To 20 years of partnership." "To 20 years of love," Austin countered. "Partnership is part of it, but Amelia, I have loved you every single day. Even the hard days, the days we fought or struggled or could not figure things out. I loved you through all of it." She felt tears prick her eyes. "I love you too. You gave me something I did not know I could have. You let me be fully myself while also being fully yours. That is the greatest gift." He reached across the table and took her hand, the gesture as familiar now as breathing. "I want another 20 years with you, and then another 20 after that." "That is a lot of years," Amelia said with a smile. "Not nearly enough," Austin replied. The new century arrived with celebration and hope. Samuel graduated and returned to the Double J, full of enthusiasm for implementing what he had learned. He and Austin worked together seamlessly, the younger man's innovation balanced by the older one's experience. Eleanor left for business school in Houston, determined to earn formal credentials to add to her practical training. Thomas, at 12, was becoming a master horseman, raising and training animals that commanded premium prices. Amelia, at 46, found herself entering a new phase of life. Her children were growing into independent adults, and while she missed having them all at home, she also discovered renewed freedom. She took on more challenging consulting work, traveled occasionally for pleasure as well as business, and spent long hours working with Austin to plan the ranch's future. "What do you want to do with the next 20 years?" Austin asked her one night, echoing his anniversary toast. Amelia thought about it seriously. "I want to see our children settled and happy. I want to build the consulting business into something that can outlast me. I want to spend time with you growing old together. I want to watch the ranch continue to thrive. And I want to help other women find the kind of life I have built, show them they do not have to choose between independence and partnership." "That is a good list," Austin said. "I want all of that too. Except maybe the helping other women part specifically, though I will support you in it however I can," she laughed. "What do you want that is just yours?" he considered. "I want to breed the finest cattle in Texas. I want to see Samuel take over the ranch someday and do even better than I did." I want to bounce grandchildren on my knee, and I want to spend every evening I can sitting on this porch with you, talking about everything and nothing." "Those are good goals," Amelia said softly. "Achievable ones, too." Life continued its forward motion. Alina graduated top of her class and returned to Texas, joining Amelia's consulting firm officially. Mother and daughter made a formidable team, Alina's fresh perspective combining with Amelia's years of experience. They expanded the business, taking on larger clients and training other women in accounting and business analysis. Samuel married in 1903, bringing home a smart, capable woman named Catherine who loved ranch life and fit into the family seamlessly. Their first child, a daughter they named Amelia Catherine, arrived in 1904, making Amelia and Austin grandparents for the first time. Holding her tiny namesake, Amelia felt emotions she could not quite articulate. This child represented continuity, the future extending beyond her own life. She thought about the choices she had made, the risks she had taken, and felt profound gratitude that she had been brave enough to say yes when Austin had asked her to build a life with him. Thomas, at 16, had no interest in marriage yet, but he had built a reputation as the best horse trainer in the region. Buyers came from as far as Oklahoma and New Mexico to purchase his animals. He was quiet and serious, but he had a gentle heart and a gift for understanding horses that seemed almost mystical. Alina married in 1906, choosing a lawyer from Houston who respected her career and supported her ambitions. They divided their time between Houston and the ranch, and Alina continued to work alongside her mother, now managing much of the day-to-day business of the consulting firm. "I am getting old," Amelia said to Austin one evening in 1908, watching the sunset from their porch. She was 54, her hair now more silver than brown, her face lined with years of sun and laughter. "We both are," Austin replied. He was 60, his hair completely gray, but his eyes were still that clear creek water color, still honest and open. "But you are beautiful still, Amelia. More beautiful now than the day I met you. You are a flatterer in your old age." "I am honest in all ages," he corrected. "You know that about me. I have never lied to you, not once in 30 years. It was true." Through 3 decades of marriage, Austin had been unfailingly honest with her, even when the truth was difficult. It was the foundation of everything they had built. 30 years, she marveled. "Austin, when I stepped off that stagecoach in Alta in 1878, I was so scared and so alone. I thought independence meant being solitary. I thought partnership meant giving up who I was. You taught me different." "You taught me plenty too," Austin said. "You showed me that strength comes in many forms, that a true partner challenges you and supports you in equal measure. You made me a better man, Amelia. A better rancher, a better father, just better in every way." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky darkened and stars began to emerge. Somewhere in the house, they could hear Mrs. Chen, now in her 80s but still keeping the household running, talking to young Amelia Catherine, who was visiting with her parents. The sounds of family, of home, of a life well lived. In 1910, Thomas surprised everyone by falling in love with the schoolteacher who had come to Alta to educate the ranch children. Sarah was from Boston, a transplant to Texas who had fallen in love with the wide open spaces and the honest simplicity of ranch life. She and Thomas made an unlikely but perfect pair, her education and refinement balancing his quiet practicality. Their wedding in 1911 was the last of the Jameson children to marry, and Amelia found herself weeping with joy and a touch of melancholy. Her babies were all grown, all settled, all building their own lives. "We did our job," Austin said, holding her as they watched Thomas and Sarah dance at the reception. "We raised them well, and now we get to enjoy watching them live their lives." By 1912, Amelia had fully transitioned the consulting business to Alina, stepping back into an advisory role. At 58, she found herself ready for a slower pace, more time to enjoy the ranch and her growing collection of grandchildren. Samuel and Catherine had 3 children now. Alina and her husband had 2, and Thomas and Sarah were expecting their first. Austin, at 64, had similarly stepped back from the day-to-day management of the ranch, letting Samuel take the lead while he advised and consulted. They spent their days working together on smaller projects, long rides through the property, and quiet evenings on the porch. "You have any regrets?" Amelia asked him one night, a question prompted by nothing more than curiosity and the philosophical mood that seemed to come with age. Austin thought about it seriously, giving her question the consideration it deserved. "No," he said finally. "Not about anything important. Sure, there were bad business decisions here and there, cattle I should not have bought or sold, investments that did not pan out. But nothing that mattered in the long run. And certainly no regrets about you, about us, about the life we built." "You, no regrets," Amelia confirmed. "I have been luckier than I deserved. I found work I loved, a man who loved me without trying to change me, children who have exceeded my wildest hopes. I've had a good life, Austin. A really good life." "We are not done yet," he reminded her. "We have got plenty of years left, God willing." They did have years left, good years filled with grandchildren and quiet contentment. Amelia lived to see Alina become one of the most respected accountants in Texas. Samuel expand the ranch beyond anything Austin had imagined, and Thomas build a horse breeding operation that was renowned across the West. On their 40th anniversary in 1918, their children and grandchildren gathered at the Double J for a celebration. The house was full of noise and laughter. 3 generations of family created from the union of an honest cowboy and a determined accountant who had taken a chance on each other. That evening, after everyone had gone to bed, Amelia and Austin sat on their porch, the same spot where they had spent thousands of evenings over 40 years. 40 years, Austin said, echoing Amelia's thoughts. "It went so fast." "And so slow," Amelia added. "Some days felt endless, but the years flew." "I would do it all again," Austin said. "Every bit of it exactly the same." "Me too," Amelia agreed. "Though maybe with a little less stubbornness from me in the early days." Austin laughed. "Your stubbornness is one of the things I loved about you." "Still do." She leaned against him, his arm coming around her shoulders with the automatic ease of decades together. "I love you, Austin Jameson. You opened your books and your heart to me, and you gave me a life beyond anything I imagined possible." "I love you, Amelia Jameson," he replied, using the name she had taken when they married but never stopped earning. "You saw me clearly from the start, trusted my honesty, and built something beautiful with me. You are the best decision I ever made." They sat together as stars filled the Texas sky. 2 people who had found each other against odds and built a partnership that had endured through decades. Their story was not one of dramatic gestures or sweeping romance, though there had been plenty of both over the years. It was a story of daily choices, of honesty and respect, of 2 independent people who had discovered that true partnership does not diminish independence, but enhances it. The ranch stretched out around them, thousands of acres of land stewarded with care and passed on to the next generation. The house behind them held sleeping grandchildren, the future they had created together. And on the porch, an honest cowboy and his equally honest wife held each other and counted their blessings under the endless Texas sky. Grateful for the day, an auditor had arrived to examine the books and stayed to share a life.